Welcome back, everybody. Week 8 of the Alabama high school football season. It just doesn't seem possible that we are to this point. And I mean, it is basically it's down to the nitty gritty. I mean, this is at that point where you got to get these wins if you're going to be making the playoffs, whether it be the three, the four, or in some instances, this week we'll settle some region title games. It's all just kind of coming together as far as the postseason goes. But let's just jump into last week's scores here. James Clemens all over Grissom. That was a little bit of a surprise on that one. Very impressive win by Hazel Green also. Um, Looking on down the board here, let's look at very impressive win by Austin there. Austin's really playing well the last really 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, you look at the start of the season, they got wins, but they kind of struggled. But as the seasons went on, it seems like defensively, especially, they've definitely settled down some and are really playing well right now. Bob Jones, big win over Sparkman. I believe will actually keep Bob Jones in the hunt for a playoff spot. We kind of already had that thing settled to be, Sparkman pretty much penciled into that third or fourth spot. But now all of a sudden, you've got to put Bob Jones in the picture. Um, Gadsden City finally gets their first win, snaps the long losing streak. Um, you know, and that's a good Florence team. I mean, it took a lot, to my understanding. They scored late, had to come back and win the ball game. So, just congrats to them for finally getting the win this season. Hoover all over Spain Park. Spain Park, it's just been a really bad year and just continues to get worse as time goes on. Um, Looking on down the list here, let's look at that 9 versus 4 matchup. Theodore gets the upset 15-3 over McGill Tulane. I believe this is the first loss McGill Tulane has had in region play in, I believe, at least 3 years. So that's a big win for Theodore, and that should definitely move them up in this week's poll. Speaking of upsets, Mountain Brook, nobody's really talked about them, but they are undefeated, just very quietly. But this was a huge statement game to go and beat Hewitt Trustful. This is the same team, about 4 weeks ago that blew out Hoover, made their kind of statement, and all of a sudden Mountain Brook comes along and puts their statement, their flag, in a claim to be one of the best teams in 7A. Defensively, it just gets no better in Mountain Brook right now. I mean, you look at the stats, uh, they are just really nasty, defensively, and that's kind of hard to come by in 7A football. 7A football is more of an offensive, especially with a more successful team. So this is an interesting story as it continues to unfold. Looking on, let's look at that Thompson Vestavia. To my understanding, Talia Tunglivilla actually had to score late to pull out that win. I told you Vestavia would not be an easy out, and they definitely wouldn't, as the Warriors just barely survive and keep pace with the Hoover and now Hewitt. And all of a sudden, Mountain Brook is at the top of the mountain, but we shall see if that holds up. You got Averell getting a nice win over Lee of Huntsville. They definitely needed a win. It was not easy. To my understanding, they jumped on them, but Lee come roaring back and made it interesting. But that would have been a devastating loss for Averell as they try to keep their playoff hopes alive. Fort Payne basically just needed to get the W, and that's exactly what they did. It wasn't really impressive. Buckhorn's defense is just what it is. It's really good. But unfortunately, the offense only averages 6 points a game, and that's just not gonna, cut the mustard. I don't care how good your defense is, you're not gonna win a lot of football games that way. They played great, but just wasn't enough. Could not, get anything going as far as offense goes. Fort Payne, that sets him up for at least second in that region. Looking on, let's look at Clay Chapel just mowing over a pretty good little Pell City team. Big win over Chelsea there for Homewood. Um, Hartsel just smashing a solid Decatur team. McAdory and the win. A lot of people thought this would be the week they would go down, but they, you know, managed to sneak out of there with another W. Same way as Jackson Nolan. Not a lot of people have any confidence in them, but they just keep winning. Hughtown continuing their great season with another win. Muscle Shoals all over Coleman. That's a very impressive win for Muscle Shoals as they just continue to roll. Looking on, let's look at Saraland just smoking St. Paul's. All of a sudden, St. Paul's is really, getting a dose of reality as to what 6A football is. They dropped the one to Spanish Fort 22-0, and now they lose this one 35-0. I mean, it is just a smack in the face for them, I'm sure. Um, Oxford, very impressive win there. The Toros actually get the win, but lose their starting quarterback. I believe he had an ACL tear. He is done for the season, so it'll be interesting to see if Spanish Fort can continue the pace that they've set early in this season. You got Southside. That I would call that an upset. I definitely we picked Alexandria. I didn't think it would be overwhelming, but that's a huge, huge win for Southside because we kind of pretty much pushed them aside as for a playoff contention, and now all of a sudden they're right back in the thick of it and causing havoc. Boaz, big win over Sardis there as they just continue to rack up wins. Mr. Collins, I believe, had another 200-yard game. Huge, huge night for him. Etowah just mows over Douglas. That's back-to-back shutouts for Douglas. So, yeah, not looking too good for the Eagles. East Limestone just mowing them over. Big win for Brewer. A lot of people thought maybe they would choke. They had the Scary versus Ardmore. A lot of people were kind of thinking, ooh, maybe this is the week that the Brewer finally drops that big game that everybody expects them to. But they take care of Gunnersville pretty impressively and pretty much wrap them up a playoff spot. I would be really surprised if there were any scenario where they didn't make the playoffs. It's also, I believe, their best start since 1999. So, congrats to the Pats on that one. Looking on, Madison Academy just mows over Madison County. Uh, Scottsboro. This game was a little closer than I thought it would be. Arab hadn't played well at all season really, but this was a little closer than what we thought. I know Scottsboro was banged up, but still, uh, you know, 17 points not bad for Arab considering how badly they played pretty much all year. Looking on, let's look at that Anniston and White Plains. Anniston has played so well versus some of these teams that they shouldn't be really competing with, but yet now they get a game where White Plains you would think they would put it together and get a big win. They did win, but it was only 7-0. So that's kind of one of those go figure type deals. But it also puts them right in the mix for the playoffs. Um, they're not definitely in, but they are really on their way to getting in. You got Cherokee County just mowing over Asheville in that one. Hopes Bluff, another blowout win. Still, we don't know who they are, as they just really haven't played anybody, to be honest with you, this whole season. Um, VAR just continues to rack up points, and they smashed Danville with that one. This was a game we missed, actually. We picked Deschler. We really wanted to pick Brooks because historically, for some reason, Deschler just has such a hard time with Brooks. And this being a de facto region title game, just, you know, I thought it would be close. I thought they might sneak out their win, but Brooks just smashed them. I mean, there's no other way around it and left no doubt. So congrats to them. I believe they're number 6 in 4A, so that's a huge win for them. And Deschler has to take a step back after playing so well early in the season. Looking on, let's look at Jacksonville. They have to score late, and they get the 2-pointer, and they sneak out of there with a win over the Redskins. That really could have hurt their region title hopes big time if they would have dropped that game. And congrats to Aniana just playing it that close and showing so much improvement this whole season, really. So that's just hats off to them. North Jackson, Mr. Witherspoon, another 227-yard night. I believe 11 carries, another 8 touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns last week. He's got 8 touchdowns this past week. That's just crazy. As he just continues to rack up like video game numbers. Um, Eunice Wright mowing over Monroe County in that one. Plainview just smashes Brindley. No big shock there. Pennington rolls over Holly Pond. That will definitely put Pennington in position to, take that third spot and probably put Holly Pond in the fourth spot if our calculations are correct. This was another de facto region title game. You had Fultondale and midfield. To my understanding, midfield actually led this game pretty much the majority of time. But Fultondale hits a late pass, deep ball, and sneaks out of there with a 16-14 win and pretty much wraps up that region. You got Sylvania taking on New Hope and just smashing them. I don't know what's happened with Sylvania, but you know, I guess playing some lesser competition and having some success, maybe it spreads some more, confidence in what they're doing or whatever. But whatever it is, it's good for them as they get the big win in this one. And all of a sudden, playoff hopes are not completely dead in Sylvania. Piedmont just getting a smash win over Glencoe. Susan Moore, this game was actually 7-6 at halftime, but I believe they came out in the second half, just took control of it as they roll over Pisgah in that one. And that pretty much takes any hope of Pisgah winning a region title away. And now they can just try to focus on just getting in at this point. Sachs, Weaver, another impressive win for Sachs. Expected this game might be a little closer, but Sachs just was not having it. Thomasville upsets T.R. Miller. That's a big win for them as they, early in the season, the stock was kind of rising and then it just kind of fell out the bottom of the barrel. And now all of a sudden they get this win, that'll definitely help that going forward. Randolph rolls over them. Uh, that Aliceville Southeastern game, that was big because that pretty much wraps up that region for Aliceville as they get another defensive nasty win there. Collinsville rolls over Asbury, no shock. The Ivory Starless Cedar Bluff Tigers take a beating from Fife in that one. Not a real shock there. Um, Looking on, Reeltown, another good win. Cleveland gets a good one. Colbert County, they have definitely made this region a lot more interesting than what it should have been after getting that very impressive upset win over Addison. Maybe an emotional hangover, I don't know, or letdown, what have you, but they let Red Bay beat them 12-7. Go figure that one. So now all of a sudden you get that three-way tie, just craziness coming down the stretch. And we've kind of done some projecting, I guess you could say. And right now, I would say Addison's probably going to be number 1, Red Bay's going to be number 2, and Colbert will be number 3. So that was a bad, bad, bad loss for the folks in Colbert County. Westbrook gets a blowout win in that one. Number 2, Luverne bites the dust. Highland Home knocks them off. You say, who's Highland Home? They're actually a really good team. I believe this puts them to 6-1, if I'm not mistaken. Their only loss was to undefeated Headland, which is in 4A. So I mean, it was a legit loss, and it was a very close game. So I mean, all of a sudden, old Highland Home says, "Hey, wait a minute, don't pencil in Luverne just yet." All of a sudden, they knock them off, and they'll likely take that region, and who knows going forward. You got the darlings, if you will, of 2A South football right now. Cottage Hill Christian, you got Mr. Samario Rudolph. Uh, he's ridiculous. There's just no other way around it, and they just blow out the defending South champs, Leroy, in this one, and that will definitely take control of that region. And I'm sure with Luverne going down, Cottage Hill will move up. North Sand rolling over Adder. There were no trap game to be found in this one. Bison just roll big time in that one. Ranburn smashing West End. Uh, you know, they did. I guess you could say hats off to West End. They did hold them under 60, so that's definitely an accomplishment for them. Section just taking care of business over just a continuing to struggle Rock team. Addison bounces back. Nice win over Tanner. That win with Tarrant pretty much sets them up going forward as far as I believe the number 2 spot for them. Um, Looking into 1A, Faultville, another 70 points. They set a school record the week before, so they tied it, back to back week as they wrap up that region with this win over Decatur Heritage 70-41. Georgiana upsets Elba 35-27. And that will pretty much take control of that region for them. Linden actually struggles with Francis Marion for whatever reason, but they do sneak out of there with the win. And I guess that's really all that matters. Mr. Jermaine Brown and company get over 500 yards and just blow out Fruitdale. Coosa cruises to an easy win over Gillsville. That's a big win coming off that embarrassing loss to Faultville, and it will definitely pretty much wrap them up a playoff spot, so they can be no worse than fourth going forward. Um, let's look at Manette, blowout win there. Maplesville, another blowout win. Marengo, nice win over Sweetwater, and that pretty much puts them in the first spot in their region. Um, Pickens County, big win there. South Lamar pretty much wraps up their region with that win over Marion County. Spring Garden just continues to roll. Donahoe, nice win there. Raglan blowing out Valley Head. Valley Head just continues to struggle, and most of these games are just not even close at this point. Um, Waterloo, big win there, setting up for that big matchup this week. Winterburg gets a blowout win. Hubbard struggles with Woodville. Woodville give them a nice, good game there, but they managed to sneak out there with a W. Looking on, let's look at Marsh Hill. That's a big win over Central Florence. Central Florence is actually a bigger school. I believe they're a 3A school. They're a winning program. So that's a huge, huge win for Marsh Hill, and just goes to show you how truly good they may really be. Pinson Valley goes bananas, gets a win. I believe Nick's those 6 touchdown passes in this one. Um, and ASD actually gets a win this week, so congrats to them. Let's go ahead and give out our team of the week. Gaston City is our team of the week. They get their first win of the season. Get a I wouldn't call it an overwhelming upset, but definitely an upset as they knock off Florence last week, 31-24 in comeback fashion. So congrats to the Titans as they are our team of the week for this past week. That leads us into our segment of our correspondence. And Brock Bennett says he wants to talk bubble and he wants to talk Sylvania football. What do we think about Sylvania's chances of getting in the playoffs? They're not great, but they're not impossible. If they can find a way to somehow sneak out of there with a win this week versus Pisgah, that would definitely put them in the catbird seat to get in. But if they don't win this one, it pretty much eliminates them. So it's just do or die at this point. And if I had to make a pick on it, it's going to be close. But I would probably lean just a little bit toward Pisgah and putting the Rams out in the cold in this one. And on to our next one. Nikita Magnum says, why can't anybody get over the mental hump of knocking off Fife? And I'm assuming he is referring to this big game coming with the Bison as they host Fife. If they could find some way, somehow, to get the win, it would put them in a three-way tie with Collinsville and Fife. Um, to answer your question as far as the mental block, Fife's had so much success. I guess maybe it's a little intimidating. Maybe it's a mixture of wanting it too much and playing tight rather than just going out and playing your game. That would definitely be a factor in that one. Um, Maybe just Fife just you watch them on film and what have you, and no, they don't really jump out at you as a dominant team. They do the same thing over and over again. They know it. They don't even have to think about it really. I mean, he's run the same offense forever. You know what he's going to do defensively. I mean, there's no real surprises from them whatsoever. And maybe mentally, it kind of puts you in a complacent spot to where you think it's going to be easy, but it's not. And they just find ways to make you make mistakes, and they take advantage of them, and that's what it boils down to. You go in there with that tight mentality, and you make a lot of mistakes, and because you press. Uh, it takes a team that knows who they are, and they're confident in what they do, and that was definitely the case last year with Seligent. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They didn't change their game plan just because they were playing five. They went in there with that mentality of we're going to throw it around and we're going to, we might gash you every once in a while with some runs. And, defensively, we know we're not great, but we're going to try our best to find some way, somehow to slow you down enough to give our offense a chance to win the game. And that's probably going to have to be the mentality of North Sand, just jumping into that pick. North Sand definitely has got to keep that running game going. Marlboro has definitely stepped up. Luna has definitely stepped up. Those guys were kind of non-existent in the game versus Collinsville, but as the weeks have gone on, I believe they haven't scored under 40 points since that game. So I mean, offensively, they are on a tear. Because the thing is, if you can get that running game rolling, all of a sudden that gives Landon Green just that little bit extra time to kind of diagnose and pick your secondary apart and get Mr. Hill involved also with that deep ball. And that definitely opens up everything and makes that Bison offense so deadly. And that's going to be the key. Can Landon Green take care of the football? Can he not make mistakes and turn the ball over? Because he is going to have to play the game of his life if they're going to knock off five. If I had to make a pick, I say this thing stays close, but it's probably going to be a lot like that Collinsville game. I think as time rolls on, uh, you know, he just he's hard to be trusted. I feel like he'll probably make a mistake somewhere along the way, and it will cost him. But like I say, I think they can move it on Fife if they just execute and don't make a lot of mistakes. But I do like Fife to win it, but it's going to be closer than you think. But it's still going to put North Sand in the third spot, which is, I mean, I understand you're not going to have a home game, but uh, you know, they're a really good three seed, I guess you could say. So I hope that answers your question. And let's just jump into the polls. Uh, Thompson actually gets the first place vote this week. Bob Jones to 12. Spanish Ford actually gets the vote this week. Saraland gets the vote this week. Hartsville gets the vote this week. Um, Not a whole lot changes there. McAdore actually makes there finally. Somebody shows them some love and puts them in at number 10. So congrats to them. Athens, team nobody really talks about, but they are 13 this week. And then you got Fort Payne actually gets a vote, and they are about 16. So that's the first time that I can remember this year that they have even been mentioned in the polls. Bagger's still number one. Etowah just nipping at their heels. About 39 votes behind. Mortimer Jordan still rolling along. Boaz getting a little love there at number 12, and then you got Brewer at 13. So that's a little bit surprising. Both those teams have had really good seasons, but maybe nobody really believes in them. But they are finally getting a little love at this point. Host Bluff actually gets first place vote this week. Brooks moves up to 5. North Jackson moves up to number 7 as they have just mowed over everybody they played, really. Hanley actually gets a vote. They move up to about 15 there. Onion at 16 and DRR at 17. So congrats to them for finally getting a little bit of recognition on their great seasons. Looking on, let's look at Westminster. They finally cracked the top 10, and this is the highest they've ever been ranked at number 9 in school history. So congrats to them, most definitely. T.R. Miller dropped to 11, Geraldine at 12. Midfield at 14. Looking into 2A. Ohatchee, your new number 2. I've told you all season, keep an eye on him. Dominique Thomas had a monster game this past week. Is pretty much he has all season, and they are all of a sudden only 95 votes behind Fife and number 2. And Reeltown seems like they took it on the chin to Maplesville, but it seems like they kind of got things back on track after that loss, and they are number 3. Cottage Hill, like I say, the darlings of 2A football right now. They're number 4. Thorsby at 5. Luverne drops to 6. Aliceville at 7. Highland Home makes an appearance. First time they've been ranked since 2002. The Flying Squadron at number 8. Ramburn at 10. Collinsville getting no love at 11. As we talked about earlier, North Sand with that golden opportunity to knock off Fife. Will go in there at number, or rather, Fife will come to town at them at number 12. Looking on, Cedar Bluff takes a huge tumble to roughly about 17, and Red Bay rounding out there at 19. Faultville still get that first place vote. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that one. But it's just murderer's row there in 1A football. But Elba drops back to 9. Mars Hill at 10. Spring Garden gets some love there at 12. Hubbard at 13. Waterloo finally gets some love at 14. That pretty much wraps us up. All right, let's get into some picks this week. You got Austin going into Bob Jones, as we spoke of earlier. Austin's just on a tear. Look for them to continue that tear and knock off Bob Jones in that one. Looking on, let's look at Gaston City going into Huntsville. Believe it or not, I like their chances. Huntsville's kind of up and down. You just really don't know who's going to show up. You don't know if that team that got beat 40-3 is going to show up, or the one that upset Sparkman earlier in the season. I'm going to say that this win builds a lot of confidence in those young Titans, and they actually get win number 2, and all of a sudden Bart Sessions and company have a win streak. Yeah, you heard it here first. Hoover and Vestavia. This is going to be an interesting game. You like I say, Vestavia is going to bring it. They're going to make it hard on whoever they play, basically. But I don't think they got enough to knock off Hoover. But look for this thing to be closer than you think. Sparkman and Clemens. I would probably go with Clemens. They are really rolling offensively, and Sparkman coming off that loss, maybe struggling a little bit, and look for them to drop this one. Thompson going into Mountain Brook. Mountain Brook, you know, all this good stuff happening for them. Can they keep it going? Is what it boils down to. It's going to be interesting to see. You know, coming off that big emotional win, and you got Mr. Talia coming to town. Um, Something's got to give. You know, that defense is nasty, and then you got him back there just carving people up. Can he do the same thing to Mountain Brook, or will Mountain Brook knock them off and continue to hold that number one spot? I would have to probably go with Talia though. I mean, I like the Mountain Brook story, but I think they might have snuck up on Hewitt. I don't think they're going to sneak up on Thompson this week. Look for Mr. Tangliavoa to get him a W in this one. Blunt, Spanish Ford, as we talked about earlier, losing their quarterback, might be on upset alert. Blunt's not a bad team. Definitely keep an eye on that one. Coleman going to Hartsville. Look for Hartsville to roll in that one, as Coleman has really struggled over the last few weeks. This is the de facto region title game. You got Fort Payne, Coach Elmore and his Cats rolling into Hazel Green. I know a lot of people around here are thinking Fort Payne region title, and I get that. I do. The defense has played really well, and you know, the offense has done enough to just keep rolling along. But this Hazel Green team is very determined. They're good on basically both sides of the ball, but especially defensively. Look for this thing to be really low scoring, but I like Hazel Green to take advantage of the home field advantage and get the win in this one. Jackson Olin, nice little test there with Helena. Would not surprise me at all if they knocked them off, but I do like Jackson Olin to keep it rolling in that Leah Huntsville, Buckhorn. Leah Huntsville can't stop anybody. I believe they're giving up somewhere in the ballpark of 35 points a game. Then you got Buckhorn, who is only scoring 6 points a game. So this could be their opportunity to finally get a win. So look for them. I'm going to say if they will get a W this week. De facto region title game, McAdoo rolling into Hueytown. You know, I've said it all year. It's ugly, but they just keep winning. Look for them to slow down Roydell Williams and get a win and keep on being undefeated quietly. Most shows in Athens, as we talked about, Athens very quietly has had a great year, but look for most shows to be a little too much for them and get a win in that one and pretty much lock up the number two spot in that region. Oxford play Chalkville. This is another one of those deals. This is basically a game for number two, and you Fort Payne fans, you will likely get the loser of this game coming to your house if you do indeed lose to Hazel Green. So just keep that in mind. You know that's a prize there for either one of these to lose to be number three. It's just ridiculous of how difficult that region truly is. Oxford defensively really good. Can they slow down this Willie Miller led Chalkville team? I don't think so. They're rolling right now. They have peaked at the right time, and I like them to knock off Oxford in this one. Hell City going to Pinson. Look for Pinson to roll in that one. Uh, Looking on Arab going into Madison County. They've showed some improvement, and Madison County is really struggling also. So this could be the week. Arab might find a way to win, but I'm going to say it's going to be close. But I like County to get the W in that one. Gunners should bounce back versus Ardmore. Boaz going in the South Side. South Side's playing some pretty good ball all of a sudden, but I don't think they've got enough for the Pirates. Look for this Cinderella season to continue to go for the Pirates. And definitely go a long way to wrapping up that number two spot in their region. This Brewer East Limestone is going to be a great game. Uh, but I like East Limestone to maybe sneak out of there with the win in this one. That Briarwood Ramsey, this is also a de facto region title game. Ramsey's had a great year, kind of out of nowhere. Nobody really expected. They thought they would be good, but not quite this good. Look for Briarwood to keep it. It's going to be close, but I like Briarwood to maybe have a little too much muscle for them and get the win in this one. Etowah going into Death Valley, Valley Cubs. Etowah, cannot score to save their lives, but they will have just enough to knock off Alexandria in this one. Madison Academy going into Scottsboro. Scottsboro is looking for the upset, maybe keep their hopes of a third spot alive if they could find someone to knock them off. But it's just not going to happen. Madison Academy, especially offensively, is really starting to roll. Look for them to take advantage of a banged up Scottsboro and probably put a beating on them in this one. Got Sardis going into Crossville. Sardis kind of took it on the chin from a lot of these other teams, but look for them to kind of take out a lot of that frustration. Mr. Presley and company to get rolling this week and take out Crossville as they have just not quite up to par with the rest of this region. DAR is going to score a lot of points and mow over struggling Priceville in that one. Coach Bluff going into Cherokee County. Cherokee County uh, just not very good. And Hopes Bluff will do what they want when they want. Mr. Meads will have a monster game, and they will definitely get the win in this one and be ready for next week in that colossal showdown with Jackson. Leeds going into Hanley. Leeds is really kind of surprised some people over the last few weeks, showing so much improvement. But I like Coach Strain and Hanley to get the win in that one. And pretty much that will wrap them up the third or fourth spot in their region if they do get the win. Aniana going into Anniston. Anniston's tried to upset everybody and their grandma, it seems, but just not quite enough. Don't look for more of the same. Aniana's going to win it, but it will be close. West Morgan, they have struggled all season, especially defensively, and you don't want to see Mr. Witherspoon on the other side of the ball, and he's going to have a monster game. North Jackson is going to drop another 60 this week, if not 70 in this one. White Plains, Jacksonville coming off a scare last week. Look for them to get back on track this week, not looking ahead and just roll over White Plains in that one. Piedmont should roll in that one. Looking on, let's look at Plainview going into New Hope. Plainview coming off a big win over Brindley. Uh, maybe that builds their confidence a little bit. Maybe they can kind of build off of that. Look for them to go on the road and get a very pivotal win over New Hope, and that will pretty much set Plainview up for that third spot if they do get the win in this one. Now, if they lose, that region really gets messy for that third and fourth spot. So I'm sure there's a lot of Sylvania fans, there's a lot of Pisgah fans that are definitely going to be rooting for the Indians to get the win in that one. But it's probably not going to happen. Randolph County going into Sachs. A lot of people in that region are rooting for Randolph County, but it's probably not going to be enough. Saxe is just really good, and look for them to be a little too much for them at home in this one. There's another de facto region title game. Susan Moore going in Geraldine, the battle of the purple dogs, if you will. Uh, Susan Moore, I just can't see them uh, playing four good quarters. They always struggle in one or two. Look for Geraldine just to be themselves, just like they have been all season. They're nothing special, but they just consistently put the pressure on you to stop them, especially running the football. Mr. Hall and those guys, they do a great job at what they do. And look for them to be a little too much for Susan Moore in this one. It could be close, but I do like Geraldine to go ahead and wrap up this region with a win over Susan Moore. We talked about this game earlier, Sylvania at Pisgah. Sylvania showing so much improvement. Pisgah coming off that disappointing loss. It's going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back emotionally enough to go ahead and beat Sylvania. I would definitely put. I guess you could say Pisgah is the favorite in this thing. I would definitely put them on upset alert going into this. Um, but I have a feeling Pisgah's probably just gonna find a way to win it, just because it's at home in this one, and that will pretty much sew them up a playoff spot if they do. And like I say, just the opposite. If Sylvania can find a way to win, they will definitely stay alive and in really good position to get that fourth spot. So this is, I guess you basically could call this a playoff game. The loser is in a really bad spot. And in Sylvania's case, they are totally out of it. As to where Pisgah would still mathematically be alive, they would need some help. Westminster should roll over Lauderdale County in this one, and just I think mathematically clinch that region with that win, and that would be the first one in school history for them. So congrats to them early, as I believe they will do it. Looking on, let's look at Collinsville going to Sandrock. Yeah, that's gonna be a long night for the Rock. Collinsville, Mr. Jones and company, they will roll in that one. We already talked about this one. Fife going into North Sand. Uh, I mean, some of you people might say, well, you're crazy. This is not going to be close. It's Fife. Fife's going to blow them out. They're going to blow them out. Not really the case. You want to go back about 5 years, I believe it was. It was when uh, the last time around, not the last season, but the next last season, North Sam was a 2A school. But this was basically a de facto region title game. They both were undefeated in region. The winner took it, and in that case, North San actually got up on them and had the lead out there at Higdon, but managed to turn the ball over, change the momentum of it, and Fife managed to sneak out of there with a win. So do not sleep on the Bison. They are on a roll. They're playing well, but it will be interesting to see if they can stand up at this moment, like so many others have failed to do so, and snatch the title away from Fife. Gaston going to the West End. This is going to be an interesting game. Gaston showing a lot of improvement, and West End good offensively, terrible defensively. Um, would not surprise me at all if Gaston could find some way somehow to get the win. But I do like West End maybe have just a little too much talent for them and sneak out there with a win in this one. Outer going to Cedar Bluff. Normally, I would say this game would probably be a blowout, but all of a sudden, Higdon and company are playing pretty well, especially offensively, not necessarily defensively. But it'll be interesting to see if Cedar Bluff can find somehow, some way to generate some offense without Mr. Starr going forward. So I would definitely put Cedar Bluff on upset alert in this Ramburn going into Ohatchee. This is a de facto region title game as well. Look for Ohatchee to be a little too much for them. It might be close early, but look for Ohatchee to pull away late and get the win in this one. As Ramburn struggles defensively, and Ohatchee can rack it up on you if they get going. Red Bay and Tanner, normally I would say this would be a close game, but I don't think Tanner has the horses to compete with Red Bay. Look for Red Bay to get the win in that section going into Asbury. Look for section to get another win. That'll be back to back for Coach Powell and his Lions. Colbert County should bounce back versus Sheffield. Woodland rolling into Westbrook. Look for Westbrook to get a win in that one. Appalachian rolling into Spring Garden. Look for Spring Garden to get the win and pretty much wrap up that region for them. Is pretty much mathematically will wrap it up. Looking on, let's look at Coosa going to Woodville. Coach Woods and company have an opportunity, pretty much can wrap up that third spot with a win over Woodville. As to where Woodville was trying to get the win to stay alive and maybe sneak in that fourth spot. But if they lose it, that would pretty much put them out of it, to my understanding. I like Woods and company. Uh, that they really, you know, made a lot of defensive adjustments last week and really played well, from my understanding, versus Gills. Will look for that to be the case. Slow down Mr. Lands and company just enough to get it in this one. I think it's gonna be close, but it's and then obviously just another shootout. Both these teams struggle defensively, but I do like Coosa to go ahead and get the win in this one. Galesville going into Decatur Heritage. Galesville scored 6 points in the last 3 weeks. So that's not a good sign when you're going up against Decatur Heritage because, they do struggle defensively, but they score a lot of points. And look for them to do it again and win it in blowout fashion over Galesville. Lynn's playing pretty well, and they're going into South Lamar. Be interesting to see, maybe, just maybe, if they can pull the upset, but I would not count on it. I like South Lamar in that one. Another de facto region title game. We talked about this game for really 2 to 3 weeks, I guess you could say. Waterloo, really impressive. Marseille's even more so impressive. Um, can Waterloo pull the upset and win a region title, or is it going to be Morris Hill? Either way, to my understanding, neither have ever won a region title, so something's going to happen very special for one of these teams. But I like Morris Hill just to be a little too much for them. Look for a high scoring game, but I do like Morris Hill to get the win in that one. Hubbard going into Valley Head. Hubbard coming off a hard fought win last week over Woodville. Look for them to score a lot of points, probably in the 50s. Uh, Valley Head defensively just really has no answer at this point. Offensively, also, just you got to go. I don't know how far back in the season, but you got to go way back to find a game where they really were relevant. And look for Mr. Bean and company to have a monster night and roll over Valley Head, as they are pretty much dead on the side of the road at this point. Raglan going into Winterboro. Raglan is on a tear. Winterboro's playing pretty well as well, but I like Raglan maybe to sneak out of there with a win in this one, and that would pretty much wrap them up that third spot in the region. Urbana going into Lynette. Look for Lynette to smash them in that one. Victor Christian could play spoiler if they can find some way to knock off Donahoe, but do not count on it. Donahoe playing pretty well over the last few weeks. Look for them to get the win in that one. Douglas going to Cleveland. As we spoke of, Douglas hadn't scored in 3 weeks. Look for them to score this week, but Cleveland will score a whole lot more. and get the win in that one. T.R. Miller going into Catholic Montgomery. Catholic Montgomery's a really good team, but look for T.R. Miller to find some way, somehow, to get back on track and get the win in that one. That pretty much wraps us up. Like I say, we'll know a whole lot more after this week. The picture's starting to kind of, unravel, and the fuzziness is clearing up, if you will. But it'll be even clearer here in about another week. I guess that pretty much wraps us up. As always, I'm Artie Decker. This is PSN. Join us next week, and we will continue to get out our crystal ball and set the playoff picture for you. Just save us a spot on the fence. And goodbye to all, and God bless, guys.